So I am Katelyn Bourgoin. I am the founder of Customer Camp. And at Customer Camp, we work with teams to help them to really deeply understand their audience. And one of the key resources that we've learned from and base a lot of our work on is this innovation theory known as jobs to be done. And we're really blessed today to have one of the co-architects of that theory here with us to showcase this really critical tool that I just it blew my mind when I first learned it. So Bob Moesta, thank you for being here.
Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
And we also have Amanda here, and Amanda is a marketer and also a consumer who recently bought a very interesting product, and she's going to let us interview her about that product. And what makes this particular style of interview so exciting to me is that you're all going to get to see how these interviews are done, but you're also going to get to see how four smart marketers, Stu, Amanda, myself, and Bob, would take what we're hearing in these interviews and how we could apply that to marketing if we were helping the company that Amanda recently bought a product from figure out how to sell more stuff. So you're going to see the actual interview, and then in real time, you're going to see ideas for how you could action some of what you're learning. So it's a pretty cool approach.
Yeah. Typically, I would say I don't do this off of one interview. I do this off a set of interviews to see some patterns, but at the same time, it's you'll see kind of the way we dig and what we go after is gonna it will spur lots of ideas very early, very fast.
And that's it, right? For now, it's about ideas. And I definitely, to Bob's point, when we do this, whether we're doing it for clients, whether we're teaching people to do this for their own teams, typically it's this is not a one and done thing by any means. But if you are trying to come up with ideas for content, if you are trying to get inspired for maybe a new ad campaign, you can learn quite a bit even from just one conversation. So one of the big pain points for a lot of marketers is that they're not given access to customers or time to actually do these interviews. So even if you can only do a handful, still better than not taking the opportunity to do it at all.
Yep. So I'm looking at this from a product perspective of how do I innovate with it? Katelyn, I think you look at it a little bit differently. So you might want to share kind of how you think about it as you go into the interviews.
Yeah, so when I'm going to the interviews, what I'm thinking about is how can I learn about the buying journey? Everything from what Bob calls the first thought, that first time that glimmer came into your mind that there was something that you had a problem with, a pain point that you had, or progress you were trying to make, right through to when that person is exploring different options, the channels that they might be using to explore those options, right through to them actually purchasing it, that first experience, that kind of post-purchase experience. I spend a lot of time there, and I spend more time in the buying journey. I would say I spend about 60% of the time in that buying journey, and then about 40% at the end trying to understand satisfaction, because you need to know what the expectations were that led them to buying it in the first place, what they were trying to achieve. And then you can evaluate, well, are they satisfied? But as a marketer, I really want to go deep on that whole journey long before they came on our website. If I'm Peloton, let's pretend Bob and I work for Peloton. I want to know about what is happening with Amanda long before Amanda came on our website. And so really trying to pull out those stories, and I'm listening for emotional language. I'm listening for the channels or who she trusted when she was making this decision, and what she ultimately wanted to achieve. And I'm kind of using all of that because I can unpack that later, and that'll be really good when it comes to figuring out content that we can use, figuring out maybe new channels that we want to invest in or try or experiment with, and really the language that we can use to make sure that Amanda understands our solution and why it's right for her, if it is.
Got it. All right, so let's kick it off. We're going to do game on is when we're going to be doing the interview. Game off is when we're going to talk about the process, and then we'll go back to game on. Okay. So game on. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Bob.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you. Have we ever met before?
We have not.
Not. So I just want to make sure everybody understands, I do not know Amanda at all, besides by name of the announcement that we were going to be interviewing her. And I just found out that it was Peloton earlier today, but that's all I really know. So Amanda, we're doing very early research And what we're trying to do is get the language that real consumers or customers talk about kind of Peloton, like if or any exercise equipment, to be honest. And it's more just like it's early in the context of like we're just trying to make sure we can hear people's stories. So I don't have a long list of questions. It really is about hearing your story and how did the Peloton get into your house? How did it finally decide today's the day to get there, right? And so we really, the best way to think about it is I want to shoot a documentary about like, how did this happen? What was going on? And to be honest, those questions might veer a little bit off in terms of weird places, but just bear with me in terms of the questions we ask. If you don't want to answer a question, you just say, yeah, a pass, and we can pass on that question. At the same time, the fact is ultimately we just want to hear the story of how it got to how did you choose it? Why did you choose it? And then understand kind of like how well is it doing what it should be doing. My understanding is you might get delivery of it actually during this call.
Yeah, they said between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Oh,
They also said they would call 30 minutes prior, and I haven't gotten a call yet. So
okay. So
we'll see.
if we get a call in the middle, you got to let us know, and then
I will. I'll just play it on the
well,
thing.
I want to then interview you in the moment as they're bringing it in. Like that'd be so awesome. So let's start with start with setting the scene for us. Tell us a little bit about you, where you live, kind of what's the living condition, what's the work condition, like where are you in the world, that kind of stuff. So set the stage for us.
Yeah. Let's see. So I live in Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
I'm in a townhouse with my husband and toddler. Um, I moved back to LA last summer after having lived in the Bay Area for several years. And actually, my career background is in health, fitness, and wellness. I used to work at Fitbit.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also don't. Well, now I do, but I don't really work out. I haven't paid for a gym membership in over 12 years, and haven't paid for a workout class or app in about 4 years. So yeah, and
And, and,
then maybe I'll
and
stop there.
no. So a couple of things. How long have you been married?
Um, 5 years.
Husband's first name?
Ian.
Ian. Got it. And your toddler? Yeah.
My
Approximate age?
he's 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
All right. And how did you work out before?
I didn't really. I mean,
You didn't, just no reason to.
yeah, I mean, like I had every reason to, but just didn't do it. I think my approach to working out has, for the past several years, has been more about incorporating activity and movement throughout the day
Okay.
versus having dedicated workout time. And that was largely because of having a toddler, having a little, having a baby.
And
Yeah.
2.5. So let's see, this is 2020. So 2019 is when first name of the top of your son?
First name is Guy,
Guy.
Gui.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Guy was born what, 2019 roughly?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Like, okay, got it. And when did you move? I missed when you moved to LA.
Last summer.
Last summer. So
Yeah.
2020
Yep.
from San Francisco. Got it. Okay. So let's just start with, when did you order the Peloton?
So I ordered it on January 7th
7th of this year.
of this year. Yeah.
And do you remember, what do you remember about ordering it? Did you all online, or did you talk to somebody, or how what was that part of it?
All online. It was something that my husband, my husband and I always joke that we always hate each other's ideas. So he brought it up, like the idea of getting a Peloton, I think a couple years ago. And a couple years ago, I thought it was ridiculous. And I was like, we're never buying that. That's so expensive. That's so stupid. And then a couple months ago, I was like, what might be cool if we got Peloton? So, I was like, what
All
a
right.
great idea.
So wait a second. When just I got to follow that at a time. Like would that be, when would that be approximately? I don't need to know exactly, but approximately when did it come around? Back around?
Probably November. November-ish of 2020, because around that time, we were thinking about like, okay, there are going to be some Black Friday deals. Should we think about this? Let's think about the big ticket purchases, that we might want to consider. So that's when it kind of started to get more serious. And then December, we were pretty set on getting it. And then it became like, in December, I think there was no sale. So we were like, well, I don't know, when it happens, it happens. And then I think at that point, because we were like 95% committed to it, we were wondering if they were going to have like a New Year's sale. And I believe they did not, because then we were just like, okay, it's January 7th, like whatever, like the delivery windows are pretty, pretty far out. Might as well get it now, because maybe in the first several weeks or first couple of weeks of January, they're going to get a lot more orders. So I was sort of like, let's just get it now, and then we'll set the, we'll get the delivery window in 2 months or whatever it was.
So is Ian pushing for this, or are you pushing for this?
At this point, it was me.
Why not just buy it on Black Friday?
I don't remember what happened on Black Friday. I think it might have just been that we weren't that serious then.
So
What
big?
ask you?
Go
You said
ahead.
looking at a few other things on Black Friday, like what might we want to buy? Were the other things were they also fitness? Were they outside of fitness?
Oh, good question. They were outside of fitness. They were more tech related. So then it was like, oh, should we get some key lights for our video setup? Do we need a new camera? Stuff like that.
Okay, so this is the only fitness related thing you were considering.
And do you have any other fitness equipment?
The other fitness equipment I have, so this is, I think this is going to be important here. I have an Oura ring. So the Oura ring is something we bought on a Black Friday deal. So this was the thing that we were like, okay, we'll get this. I said I used to work at Fitbit, and I haven't worn a Fitbit in a couple of years. But the reason we chose the Oura ring was because we wanted to get better data into our sleep. And because our son loves screens, when he has seen us wearing an Apple Watch, he goes crazy over it and wants to play with the screen. So we like that the Oura ring is very discreet. There's no screen attached to it. So
did you both get it, or did you both got it?
We both got it, yeah.
And tell me about the sleep. Tell me why you're so interested in sleep.
Because sleep is super important to your health, and it's something that you don't really know how you're doing with it until you get more insights. Like you'll know in the morning whether or not you slept, and just based on how you feel. But there might be times in which you might wake up feeling really crappy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you got terrible sleep quality. It might just mean that you woke up during a weird point in your sleep cycle, and so you're just a little bit, groggy.
But you have an Apple Watch, right?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the Apple Watch and the Oura?
I just wasn't using Apple Watch to track my sleep. And then for Oura, Oura is not just sleep, but it also gives you insights into your overall health and wellness. And as I've continued to use it, I've really liked that it puts more of that fitness, activity, sleep, heart rate variability data into a more cohesive picture that tells you more about your overall health. So I became less interested in like what is my heart rate today, or like what is it during the workout, less interested in that, and more about like, is there something that can show me, hey, you're not sleeping very well, you're not getting much exercise, here are some things you can do to kind of improve that. So that's what I was looking for with it when we got the Oura ring. Got it.
And so how did the Oura ring impact whether you wanted a Peloton or not?
Yeah. So then here is where I was, getting the metrics and getting the insights. And so I was learning about my overall sleep quality, and learned that I was actually getting very poor quality sleep. I don't get a lot of, it's better now, but at the time, let's just say the first 4 weeks of having the Oura ring, I wasn't getting a lot of deep sleep. My restfulness wasn't very good. So I just wasn't sleeping that well generally, even if I was getting 7 hours of sleep. I would still wake up feeling kind of crappy, and I realized like, oh, it's because the quality of my sleep isn't very good. So then it'll give you suggestions to check on like, what did you eat in that, during the day? What did you drink? And I was learning about the impact that alcohol has on my sleep.
Dang, isn't that horrible? Oh.
It's awful. Really awful. Like I do
one
drink
glass of wine is like, wait, what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like now I know that like my sort of cutoff for alcohol is like 7 p.m. Like past 7 p.m. I know I'm gonna have really bad sleep. So yeah.
So and this when did the Oura ring really come? November, December?
We ordered it on Black Friday, so it came, I think, first week of December or so.
Okay, got it. How much was the Aura?
250, I think.
Got it. And you and Ian both got one. Was this Ian's idea or your idea?
The Aura Ring was Ian's idea.
Got it. And so for the most part, you were, it's okay. I know what a Fitbit is. I've got an Apple Watch. I don't really need it. Or did you feel like you needed one?
I was interested because of the insights that Aura Ring shows, and I was interested in having some kind of health type tracker that didn't have a screen.
But you haven't had a health tracker forever, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty on and off with it. I mean, I really enjoyed having a Fitbit when I did. But then when I moved away from San Francisco, I wasn't getting nearly as much activity, you know, like steps and stuff. So then I was like, why do I need something to tell me what I already know? So
it's just making you feel guilty, so you took it off.
Kinda, yeah.
And so what was this? Was the Aura, well, Ian's getting one, I might as well get one, or was this, Ian's get one, I want one because I want, was it that you didn't know something was going on or something didn't feel right? Or was it more just the fact I should probably be measuring this stuff?
So it's a combination of things. I mean, we had been, we had kind of been following Aura as a product, and so have known what it does. One of their investors, I believe, is Peter Attia, who's a doctor / I guess influencer who, whose health advice we pay attention to. So we thought that was kind of interesting. And then also, I don't think Aura does a lot of sales. So when they had a Black Friday sale, I mean, I don't think it was by a lot. It might have been like by $30, the discount, which was, it's nice. We'll take it. So then it was like, well, they don't do a ton of discounts. This is kind of the only time of year that seems like they do. And we know we want this product, so we might as well do it now.
Why did Ian want it?
I don't really know. I think he just thinks it's a cool product. He's a big fan of Peter Attia. I think he was the one who brought up the idea of having something that would not have a screen.
Got it.
And Amanda, you mentioned that when you moved to LA, you weren't walking as much. You knew that already. Can you tell me more about your move to LA and how that might have changed kind of like your behaviors and healthy habits from before? Have you seen any changes?
It's kind of tough to say because a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. So, I mean, certainly for the first several months of the pandemic, I was drinking all the time, which is not great for you, right? And then, not really exercising. And then especially in LA where it gets really, really hot in the summer. And we had an uncharacteristically hot summer where I think it was like 110 degrees pretty often. I definitely wasn't going to go outside to go for a walk when it was that hot. So, yeah.
And all right. And so did you like up to Black Friday, right? You were just kind of living your life, right? You're not working out. You've got a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old. You've just moved to the area. You're just kind of getting the lay of the land, and you're trying to survive through pandemic, right?
Pretty much.
And at some point in time, you get this device that starts to tell you, give you some information about kind of what's going on, and you realize, alcohol's this. It's like, so where did the Peloton, you need to exercise more, come into this? At some point you can still walk and do other things like this, you haven't really had a piece of equipment before.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So somewhere in the background, I have a bunch of friends who have Pelotons, and I know they do cycling classes together at the same time, which is, which seems super fun. So I knew that was happening. But the tipping point for me was in my Oura Ring data, I was seeing how alarmingly low my heart rate variability is. And so heart rate variability is where so it gives you insight into, how do I explain this? So heart rate variability tells you about whether your body is going into fight or flight. So it's about the variability in the time between heartbeats. So if your heart rate variability is high, which is a good thing, it means that you have, it means things like you have a low resting heart rate, that you're exercising. And when you're exercising, you're really pushing yourself. You're running as fast as you can or lifting weights and like whatever, like you're getting your heart rate up. Those are good things. My HRV, heart rate variability, was very low. The lowest was 18.
Wow.
And and then it kind of was around 20. And I think average for an American adult is like between 40 and 100. So there's a very wide range.
What's the consequence of this? Like, so like,
Yeah.
So what?
Well, I, was feeling really stressed out, anxious, just pandemic work. My husband and I, by the way, we both work full time from home, but we also split childcare with our toddler. So we basically have 12 to 14-hour days every single day.
Wow.
So we're stressed out, or at least I'll speak for myself. I'm stressed out. And that's not hard to know, right? But when I was seeing the HRV data be so low, I realized, oh, like I really need to take care of myself. Like this is really a sign that my body is constantly in fight or flight. I'm not exercising enough. And a way to increase my HRV is to start working out and get healthier.
Is this a conversation? Like, are you and Ian talking about this, or is this you looking at that data going like, is this about like you're in trouble, or is this more like I got to do something about this because it's only going to get worse?
It was that. It was more like, I got to do something about this because it's only going to get worse. And then that was when like Ian had already seeded the idea of getting a Peloton. And then I was seeing this data. And then I was like, hey, like, should we do this? Like, this would be fun. And also just,
Fun?
I was trying to plan ahead for the summer too, thinking like, okay, it's going to be hot again in the summer. It would be nice to have some kind of cardio solution before the summer, before it gets super hot, and then we can still work out, indoors.
So part of this is to realize, like, at some point, you need to work out, but you've got to do something, because the data itself is just, it's adding to your stress.
Yeah.
Right. And as you're doing it, it's like, okay, like, did you look at anything else besides the Peloton?
A little bit. Like, I know my husband looked at a couple of rowing machines. I wasn't super keen just because I was like, I don't know if I don't like, I'm not used to hearing about that. So I was like, I don't know. And I think they're really expensive. And then I considered a treadmill, but then, it's the mixed feelings on treadmills, just kind of being like, well, you could theoretically just go outside and walk. To cycle, you need a bike, whether it's indoor or outdoor. But the Peloton was kind of the only one we considered because we wanted the kind of full experience of like having an app, having classes, having friends to work out with, like the full experience.
And Amanda, you mentioned you had friends that already had a Peloton.
Mm-hmm.
What did you know about it from those experience from your friends?
I think it was really fun to hear from my friends, like the different kinds of experiences they were having, like, and different use cases. So one of my friends was like, yeah, I mean, like she at the time during, peak pandemic was working full time and had 3 kids at home. And she was still finding time to work out with her Peloton. And she was like, yeah, sometimes like I just book it for my lunch. I do it for 20 minutes and in and out. And then like, that's that. And that's my me time for the afternoon. So this is, that's what I use it for. Super easy, clip in and out. Another friend of mine told me it felt like therapy. She was like, I can't tell you how many times I ended a ride and just cried because it felt so good.
Wow. And so this is where does this come into the timeline? Where in the story is this like last summer, or is this between you buying? When do you start to get these images in your head?
Probably we'll just say Q4 of 2020, so the last couple months. Yeah.
Got it. And so as this is coming up, and you're like, again, you're splitting duty, you've got 12, 14-hour days, you're going back and forth, you're getting stressed, you see your heart rate variability, and they're talking about how much how fun, using the word you use, how fun this was, how they're able to actually kind of fit this stuff in. And like the tone I got from what's the name of the person who has the 3 kids? What's her name? First name.
Her name is Grace. Oh, I think they're calling me.
Okay.
Mind if I take this? Should I mute?
Yeah, mute. You might have to tell them an address or something. We want to do that.
Well, she mutes. This is like, Bob, there's so much good stuff here.
Yeah. So
watching the master work.
So I was gonna say there's a game off piece here, is like, if you listen to as she started to talk about the rower and the like the treadmill, like you just heard her tone go way down. Like it's almost like, so one of the things I want to ask about is what was it about those that didn't make any sense? And the other part is you could see that there was a little bit of, and again, she's not listening yet, but the thing is like, there's this whole notion of like, Grace has got 3 kids, she's doing it all and she's killing it. And like, I'm stressed out of my mind. Like you can already feel that part happening there as well. And so there's a social aspect here that's very interesting that I want to dig into.
Hugely. And from me, as I'm hearing this as a marketer, I mean, there's so much language here that we can pull from, but this idea of like, there was that running meme throughout the pandemic of everybody is drinking too much. And so this idea that you can replace a bad habit with a good one as it comes to stress relief. We're all stressed. Why don't you do this instead? And like her friend describing getting off and just crying and it being like therapy, like that's what we're doing with alcohol during the pandemic. It's become therapy for a lot of people. And there's an opportunity to position this as the counter to that, right, and a much, much healthier therapy.
And the crazy part is that like you can start to already see like the competition here is drinking, not other bikes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And you start to realize like so there's very interesting things that you do. The other part is I'm trying to figure out why it accelerated around this Q4. Was it that they got a bonus? Was it the fact that they had funds? Was it like what were they worried that it was going to last longer? Like part of it is you already heard that she's worried about next summer. Mm-hmm. Oh, are you back?
Oh, you might be muted, Amanda. Muted.
She would not be able to unmute. I don't know. Can we unmute her?
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Cool.
So are they coming?
They're coming in about 20 minutes, they said.
Okay, and is Ian going to get it, or do you need to leave in 20 minutes?
No, Ian's going to get it, okay. But I did text him.
Yeah. How are you feeling now that it's finally arriving?
I'm so excited, and I'm one of the lucky few, I think, who can say that it's arriving earlier than expected.
What are you excited for? Like, what's going to happen now that this is here?
My life is going to change forever, obviously.
but
I'm going to be super fit.
Yeah, but realistically, like how is your life going to be? What's going to happen? Like if I were to say like in a month from now, how's your life really going to be different?
I don't know. I mean, like I'd say I can finally bike for 5 minutes and not die. So there's that.
So you don't even know if you can do this, do you?
Theoretically, no.
Have you ever ridden one?
A Peloton specifically, no, but other kinds of indoor bikes, yeah.
Got it. And have you been doing any of the anything on the app yet, or not yet?
I have. I've been doing. I've been actually working out at least 5 days a week for the past month. Have been doing yoga, Pilates. They're high intensity interval training workouts and meditation.
You bought this on January 7th. Mm-hmm. When did the routine workout start?
I started working out, I would say the last week of December or last 2 weeks of December. Mm-hmm. And I was using the Fit On app for that, which is also a great app. It's free. Yeah.
And so again, now we peel back the onion, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what was happening in that 2 weeks that said, nah, this isn't going to work?
Well, we had, what was it? I think I was just feeling like I want something that will give like a machine that will help me do cardio workouts more often.
And how would cardio help you in your heart rate variability or in your resting?
Yeah, heart rate variability. Was also hoping for a lot of the mental health benefits from working out. So a lot of friends saying like it felt like therapy to do a Peloton ride. And then even just a lot of the research out there that just shows that, people who like go out for walks or go for runs or go on bike rides, even if it's, indoor workouts, have like maybe are, activating certain neurotransmitters in their brains and like having, experiencing more mental clarity, decreasing stress, stuff like that.
So can you talk a little bit more about, obviously the pandemic stresses are ones that we can all relate to. But like, how are those, like, how is the increased stress? And you mentioned you were drinking a lot more than you typically would. Like, how is that affecting the different areas of your life?
Um, so it was affecting my sleep, for one. And then I think it also, like, I just didn't feel good about the idea of like really, wanting my glass of whiskey on like a Tuesday at 5 p.m. for no real reason other than just feeling generally stressed out. Like I just didn't like feeling that way. And I wanted to, just get healthier and do something else that would be proactive about my health. That's really taking care of myself. That's also giving me that same kind of release, that same kind of mental health benefit.
How much whiskey were you going through?
Well, I really like whiskey. How much was I
We
going
all
on?
like whiskey, let's be
Yeah.
clear.
Probably several glasses a week,
Yeah.
I'd say.
And so was there a moment where you poured it on a Tuesday and go like, okay, this is getting out of hand,
Um,
or no?
I can't remember if there was a key moment. It
Yeah.
might have just been like overall feeling like, I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what caused you to start working out like during the holidays, and what was wrong with it that basically said you couldn't keep doing that? Because you were doing it, right?
Couldn't keep doing what? Sorry.
You keep doing the work. Like, I need something else. I need the pellet. Like it's the sun. Like if it's working, what happens is you just keep doing it. But obviously there was something about those sets of workouts that didn't make it either strong enough or good enough or whatever you were doing to say like, I need something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was it? What was wrong with those workouts that basically didn't feel like they were doing what they should be doing for you?
Yeah. So I really enjoy the workouts in Fit On and any kind of at-home workout, class. But I was also wanting something that would offer uh more of a fresh change day to day, because I didn't imagine like, okay, now I'm going to use a Peloton every single day and that's going to be how it is. My thought was like, maybe, maybe in a given week I'll use it 5 times, and then the next week I'll use it twice, and then I'll mix it up with the HIIT workouts, yoga, running or walking, stuff like that.
So from your perspective, you weren't necessarily looking for a routine to do the same workout all the time. It was like you wanted to be able to break it up. And so
Yeah.
after 2 weeks, it's like, okay, I've done all these. Like, okay, I don't want to repeat. Like, I want something else.
Right.
Is that right or not? Like, don't make it up if it's not there.
No, it's true. I wanted to be able to have like a bunch of different activities to choose from.
Got it. So I want to go back to Grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is gonna be a bad question. So Katelyn, you might have to make it better. But is this more about Grace inspiring you, or you being jealous of Grace because she's got 3 kids and she can do all this?
Oh, that's a good question. I just felt more inspired by Grace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, but she's the one who brought up his therapy, right?
No, it was a different friend who said therapy.
Okay.
The person who said therapy was my friend Amy.
Got it. And have you thought of a therapist, by the way?
I have.
But you did. Do you have one or not? You
No,
don't have to
I
answer
don't.
it. Got it.
You talked about like the clip in, clip out, which is like distinctly kind of Peloton language, and that this was my me time. You also talked about having childcare split between you and your partner, and now you're working 12 hours a day and without that break. Like, why was the me time so important?
Yeah. What me time? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just because I don't always have it on on a given day. And it's not like I need it every single day, or maybe I do, but it's like a certain form of it, right? Like maybe it's wanting to make sure that I spend 30 minutes reading a book, on a given day. Like I want to have that time, or I want that 30 minutes to be maybe on the Peloton. But wanting to do something that was for myself and for my health. Because it's not, I guess, like it's not often that I do something for my health specifically.
Yep. And and this is another strange question, but was whiskey time me time?
Yeah, It was like, because I mean, I like it. Like, I like the experience of it. I like how it smells. I like how it tastes.
You just take a minute and kind of get into it. It's like, okay, it's there. But at some point, you're realizing it's screwing up my sleep. It's like, I can't do this all the time. And I'm doing it on Tuesday night. Like, okay,
Yeah.
it's me time, but I got to figure out a new way to do me time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's totally right.
Got it. Okay. And it feels like the workouts you did between, like, right before you ordered the Peloton, it was me time, but it doesn't feel like the same kind of me time.
Yeah. Like, I think maybe what I was looking for with the Peloton was having a ritual or like having an artifact for the ritual, because I think, like, when you think about, and I didn't think about that until you pointed out whiskey as me time,
Mhm.
that the artifact is the whiskey, and it's
Yep.
the fancy glass that I use. It's the Glencairn glass. I have a couple of different glasses. I have a problem. No. But like, those
Okay.
are the artifacts that indicate me time. And I think maybe what was missing with doing like the Fit On apps or just the regular app workout on my yoga mat was like, it didn't feel like there was much of an artifact there, or didn't feel like it was enough for like every day. And I think the thing with the Peloton, with the bike itself, it signals like, this is the thing. Like, you are going to sit on this bike, you are going to work out, you are going to feel better. It's all going to be within this space.
Got it. And so it's
Love that.
part of it's building that. Do you have room for it, or did you have to clear room for it?
Well, we will have to clear some room for it, and I'll point out they do a very good job with some of their emails that come before. So I got an email 2 days ago, so 2 days prior to delivery. That was, or 3 days prior to delivery, 3 days prior, and it had a couple of blog posts or help oriented content around like where to put your Peloton. And one of the articles was, here are favorite ways that our customers have used the Peloton in their small space. And they're very good about messaging like, hey, the bike's footprint is really only 2 by 4 feet. It's pretty small.
Yeah.
On that point, can, like, Amanda, the size of it was something obviously you had to consider. You had to think about the size of your space. Was there anything else that maybe before you bought would have maybe stopped you from buying, or things you needed to figure out before you could make the commitment?
Sorry, the things I need to figure out before making the commitment to buy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, any anxieties that you had that might have stopped you from buying, or things you had to overcome?
The one thing that was really helpful was the fact that they have, you can do monthly payments through a firm at 0 APR for 2 years or something, where it
Right.
felt like a no-brainer. And then we were like, wait, we don't even have to pay for the thing up front. We can pay in installments and at no additional cost. Like, sure. And then once we price that out along with the app subscription of $40 per month, it came out to like around $70 per person per month. By per person, me and Ian. So then it was like, okay, so $70 a month. Again, haven't paid for a gym membership in over 12, 13 years. $70 a month for a gym membership. That seems pretty reasonable.
That's a bottle of whiskey a month.
Exactly. Bottle of good whiskey a month.
That's right. And so I'm still trying to figure out why you waited to the 7th. I mean, at some point you started working out beforehand. You had the data that was there. Like, what was, like, it sounded like one of the things was maybe it will go on deal after the first of the year, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, there was that. And then as we started to get more serious, I started to tell my friends, like, oh, I think I'm going to buy a Peloton. And then my friends started to point out, like, hey, like, it's actually like a really long, delivery time. Like, you might want to just place your order sooner rather than later. And I hadn't yet heard of, the horror stories that people have been experiencing with delivery times. And then the same friend, Amy, who said that Peloton is like therapy, was like, just order it. Like, you're gonna have to wait at least 2 months at this point. Just get it now. You're gonna be sorry that you held off. Like, just do it. Like, you want it. And then I was like, oh, you're right. I do want to get it. That is going to be a long wait. And I tend to be kind of impatient and kind of impulsive. So I was like, I know me, I'm going to complain if I don't have it soon. So we should get it.
So now I have like a lot more. Ian, why didn't Ian just order
I think he just wasn't really in a rush.
it? And what does Ian do to work out?
Nothing.
So both of you have really don't work out. And did he start working out as soon as he wore the aura, or is he not worked out?
No, he's not worked out.
So is this more for you or for him?
At this point, it's more for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like we started talking about, but we never got there, was like, so what's your life like now that this thing's in it? What is your image of the future? Like, what are you hoping is going to happen? Like, how is it really going to be different?
Yeah, I mean, like, a lot, I think it's just because I haven't considered myself a cyclist. I'm just excited about that experience, like of maybe self-identifying as a cyclist at some point, like maybe that. I am excited about pushing myself out of my comfort zone fitness wise, because like paying for gym memberships, paying for classes, that's not something I do, right? Like I don't, that's
Yeah.
just, like I haven't done that in years. It's not something I do. And I thought like, oh, like this could be interesting. And also just like, being someone who is self-identifying with being mentally healthy and like mentally fit. I want to call it mentally fit because it's an ongoing thing. Um, I don't know what'll be different. I mean,
Yep.
I guess, yeah, I don't really know.
Got it. Trying to think what else I have. Katelyn, you got anything follow?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
I got
wondering,
most of it.
Amanda, thanks so much for being so open and sharing so openly with us. When you talked about, your husband first mentioned it a few years ago, you had friends who were talking about it. Where else were you learning about the Peloton or seeing the Peloton? Like, were you reading reviews? Were you on their website? Like, tell me about your whole kind of like journey to think about this as a real option.
Let's see. I think it's mainly just hearing that everyone who has one loves it.
Mhm.
Like I think that was a big thing to me, and it was hearing from my friends who have it, hearing just generally like I don't know in the zeitgeist about people who are like, oh, people love their Pelotons, and I thought like maybe I could be someone who loves my Peloton.
And
And I think
how'd you know your friends had them? Like, did they post pictures of them or did they tell you in person, like, in person or?
They'll post Instagram stories, and I'm in a couple of group texts with my friends. And sometimes it'll come up in conversation.
Right.
And what so there's this notion of somebody who loves their Peloton. Like what does that really mean? To love the Peloton?
Yeah, I mean, like when I hear that, I don't think of that as I like indoor cycling, right? I think of it as they're saying Peloton. They're not saying I love my bike. They're saying I
Right.
love my Peloton. So I'm thinking about it as like they're thinking of it as the whole experience. It's the cycling, it's the class, the instructors, connecting with friends, riding with friends.
And you've been on the app, have you been able to connect with people on the app?
Yeah.
And give me an example of something you've done with somebody.
Well, I haven't taken a class with a friend, but like I've followed friends and they followed me back. When you follow each other, you can see each other's like workout history. So sometimes it's fun to see, if someone took the same like yoga class as I did, like at maybe a different time, but like just took the same class. And then, and it's, I think, and I also just kind of saw it as like, cool, now I have like my follower thing set up so that when I get the bike, we can start coordinating together.
And how long did Amy have hers?
She I think has been quite a long time user because she went from bike to bike plus. So she like had the two products. I want to say like 2 years.
Okay.
And you mentioned that like now you can start coordinating and going to classes together. Like, why would that be valuable?
This is again with me stepping out of my comfort zone. So like My husband always, he jokes, he said this joke once and it stuck with me. And it's that I hate things until I like them. And then every time he has an idea, I hate it. I'm like, oh, stupid idea. But I think what I'm excited about is the idea of not hating something.
Yeah.
And like finally agreeing like with my friends and being like, oh, you're right. That is lovely.
So the big question to me is like, when did the switch flip? Like at some point you hated it, and then all of a sudden it feels like you loved it. Like what had to change that like what are the things in your mind that basically flipped over?
The things that flipped over is, so a couple things. In December, I read Atomic Habits by James Clear. So the main takeaway here being like you start a small habit every single day until you can make it a bigger habit or part of the routine. So then first it was like, okay, I'm going to work out every single weekday for 10 minutes. That's it. And
Was
like,
that when you got the Fit On app?
yeah,
Like
that was Fit
same
On app.
habits?
Yeah. And then I was like, cool, I'll do this every single day. And part of the thing with Atomic Habits is that if you do it every day or if you do it frequently, it becomes easier over time. And which sounds like, which I don't know, maybe on one hand sounds obvious, but on the other, I'd never heard that in that way. So then I realized like, oh, maybe part of the reason like before in life or whatever, I've had a hard time working out is I used to think about it as like, okay, 3 workout days per week. Which day is that going to be? I'll do it on Monday. Never mind, I'm lazy. I'll do it Tuesday. But then thinking about it as like, oh, it has to be every single weekday. Then there's no choice. It's just, that's what I do. And then I also decided I had to do this early in the morning, and I'm not a morning person at all. It had to be the morning before my kid wakes up because that's the only time I could really do it. So then it was, okay, I'm going to wake up, 20 minutes earlier to do a 10-minute workout. That's going to be the day. So I started doing that. And then once I think got into like a 3-week streak of working out every single weekday, then it really felt like, oh, I don't hate this. And then I think by like week 4 or week 5, no, it was week 5. Week 5, I decided, oh, I love waking up early to work out. This is actually really fun for me. I know, yeah.
So this is a strange question, but was this really more about proving to yourself, like if you buy a Peloton, you're gonna like, I can't buy the Peloton unless I can actually do this for 3 weeks.
Maybe I think a little bit.
Not
I think,
explicitly, but it's more
yeah.
like I'm trying this, and it's like before we spend the $3,000 or $4,000, like we're gonna I got to make sure I can actually use this. Like I can build the space to do the time space to do this.
Yeah, a little bit of that. And there was some thought put into, well, I do want to get into somewhat decent shape before getting the actual Peloton because I don't want to be too unfit to actually bike.
Got it. And would you consider yourself, like I never got the impression that you'd consider yourself unfit.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
I'm skinny fat for sure. Like I'm not a fit person. Like I'm the kind of person who has to train for a 5K.
Got it.
That's just me.
Got it. Okay. I think I got most of it. Katelyn, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, my final question, I guess, would be if if you had to sell a friend on why they should buy a Peloton, and you had a minute to do it, what would you tell them?
I think I would tell them, do it for your holistic health and wellness. Don't just do it because you want to be better at biking. Like, yeah.
And knowing that Bob and I work for Peloton in this scenario, and like our goal is to be able to make sure that more people like you can discover and enjoy the product. Is there anything else you think we should know?
I would say that, what I really appreciated about the whole buying and like buying, marketing, customer experience process has been that at least by the time that I started looking at the website, which was probably end of December, early January, they were very upfront about delivery times. Like it said under each product, like estimated delivery time is 6 weeks or I think it said 8 weeks. And then I think by the time I placed the order or that week after, it said delivery time is 12 weeks. So it was explicit about that. And then like once you order, And I think through the process, it tells you like you need to schedule your delivery day. And then once you do it, you get confirmation. And like, then I know that at some point last year, other people had experienced being charged for the bike and for the app without having received it yet. And that was frustrating. Where I don't personally agree with the frustration is you paid for something that you knew was out of stock. And from my point of view is in any e-commerce scenario, that's what you get. If you buy something that's out of stock, that's on you. It sucks that you spent over $2,000 and you're not getting the thing. But by the time that I got the bike, they were doing free app memberships until you receive the bike. So my first 3 months or so are going to be free for the app.
Gotcha. And we have a question from Tara that we didn't really dig into, but like when you were thinking about bikes other than Peloton, or did you consider bikes other than Peloton? Like, was there anything else that was ever considered bike-wise?
Not really. I mean, I think it's I might have even been after we already purchased, but I realized like Soul Cycle has one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by then I was like, well, if I'm gonna buy a nice workout bike, I might as well get the one where I can ride with my friends as an option.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. There's so much good stuff to unpack here. Bob, do you have anything else you want to ask Amanda?
No, I'm from where I sit and what I need, I got what I think we need. I'd love for Amanda to argue with us when we start to do the inference between it all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Bob, how do you want to start?
Well, I'd rather do it your way, and then I'll morph my language to yours, because this is we're on your home turf. Sure.
Okay. So I started as I'm going to do a screen share here. So I was working on my typical kind of like hand done notes, but yep. I also look at Bob's. This is so cool.
That's so cool.
This is my note. This is what it's like to be in my head. Usually what I'm writing down is only the words I need to unpack.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Okay, so my note's not nearly as sexy, but I started working
my notes.
At the same time, I was kind of filling out the interview summary template that I have. And typically when I'm doing this, I would do the interview summary template at the end. I wouldn't be jumping between, but because Bob was kind of more leading things, I felt like I had some breathing room to kind of note things and I didn't want to miss them. So in terms of the trigger, the thing that started this journey in the first place, the thing that for me stood out was this general feeling of just like feeling crappy, right? Like, drinking too much, not sleeping well, knowing that you were letting your health lapse. And that made you think, what can I do to feel healther? I saw that as kind of.
This is where I want to argue with you, because I don't think it's about her health lapsing. It's the fact that at some point in time, she read Atomic Habits. She started to see I have some bad habits, like my whiskey is my me time. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like all of a sudden, and my variable heart rate is like, I'm not ready to, fight or flight kind of thing. And so it's the notion of like, she's not really getting out of shape. It's just realizing like these habits that I have aren't going to actually help me in the future. And at some point there's a mental health piece here of like, I have no time for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned, Amanda, that like you read about the how alcohol affected sleep. Was that only after you realized you got your Oura Ring and realized your sleep was crappy? So like get the Oura Ring first before you realized your sleep was crappy and alcohol might be affecting it?
Yeah, I mean, like I've had insomnia for well over a decade, so sleep has always been an issue for me, but it wasn't until I got the Oura Ring that I realized the impact that alcohol has on me personally. Yep. Like I think I knew theoretically, people don't sleep well when they drink alcohol, but I was like, nah, I'm fine. But once I saw the data, I was like, yeah, it's true. I do feel like crap today.
Yep.
Sorry, continue, Bob.
So I think so. Part of this is the fact is like we just moved to a new place. The fact that I'm used to walking around other places. I've had almost 6 months of not being able to go out. It's very hot in the summer. We're doing 12 to 14-hour days. I don't really have much me time. And was the insomnia back? Did you have more insomnia, or is it just an ongoing thing you've had for forever?
Just a general ongoing thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it didn't really change at all or anything like that. But the notion is the moment that you got the aura, you started to see data.
Yeah.
Right. And that data is so to me, the purchasing of some device, like again, she had the Apple Watch, but really didn't use it for sleep. It had a screen. So at some point, even if she wore it, the fact is like her son, Guy, would basically be like all over that. So it's like I needed something that I could capture data without having to worry about, so I could see the data. Because at some point you're with your son or you're working all the time, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the other part is just the notion of like realizing, like, I'm trying to figure out the role that the Atomic Habits had in this, because I feel like that's the thing that tipped you to kind of get started.
Yeah, Florence asked the same. She said, wondering why you started reading it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean that's related to stress reduction, like wanting to reduce stress because I was working so much, not working out so much. There was that. There was, because I have to do so much in a given day, it was, I need to figure out how I can manage my time and myself better and like make time for the things that I think are going to be healthy for me and figure out how to, get into good habits or routines. And then meanwhile, like a lot of people I know and respect say that Atomic Habits is a really, really good book. So I thought like, well, this is probably going to be good if everyone says it's good. Like I hadn't heard a single bad thing about it. And I feel like somewhere along the way you hear something bad about a book, but I've never heard anything bad about Atomic Habits. So then I was like, oh, I should just read it. And then I think it was on sale one day. I think I was on I'm still on James Clear's newsletter, but I think there was a sale. So I was like, oh, I'll just get it. Oh, my Peloton's calling. Can I mute?
Yeah, go ahead.
And Bob, I love you digging in there because I think that like from like my brain, as soon as she mentioned Atomic Habits, I know James Clear has a killer newsletter that I myself love and read. And like from a marketing perspective, like you can run Google ads targeting people who read that newsletter. Like you now know that anybody who recently bought his book, they have just begun the journey to self-improvement, and fitness might be part of that journey. And the Peloton is like the way she described, there's so much language in here, but this idea of that ritual, that visual reminder where she had the whiskey glass, the nice big ice cubes to be part of that ritual, replacing that with this, like there's so much good stuff, but that trigger of, oh, well, if they're getting into James, there's something happening for them where they're starting to begin that self-improvement journey.
The other thing that I found is that there's always like a half step that people take before they go to the Peloton. Like they buy something either a little cheaper or a little different, or they try like the notion I got to create the space for this. I don't want to spend $2,000 to do it.
That Fit-On app that she got, like you talked, like, and she said that she had to do that for a set number of weeks. And then she started to feel like, okay, maybe it's time for me to make this investment.
And whether she did that explicitly or not, it's one of those things where you start to see the pattern of like, they almost don't trust themselves to spend that much. They don't need a piece of equipment sitting around waiting. It's like, I got to at least earn the right to it in some way. And maybe it wasn't explicit for her, but other people I've heard in the past where people just do, it's that notion of like, I know this is good for me. Just having the knowledge isn't enough. I have to carve the time. And so the bigger underlying theme is that the stress it's building and it's not getting better. And to be honest, the Aura Ring added stress to her already stressful life.
Yeah.
Right.
It's now data to support what she was already worried about.
That's right. And so that's the other thing. And I would say I'm an Aura Ring. I work with Aura Ring. I like Aura are great. I mean, it's an amazing device. If you don't even know what it is, look it up, Oura. But it's one of those things where you start to realize like there's certain numbers you need to be able to hit, and sleep is like the third leg of the stool. And if you don't sleep well, it's hard to do anything else well.
Yeah. One thing I love too, when she talked about considering other solutions and some of the ones that her husband had looked at, she said he was looking at a rowing machine. She said it was really expensive. The treadmill. It was interesting to me that the comparable for her from the treadmill was, well, if I'm going to do that, I should just walk. And so this kind of like contrast of the treadmill is a waste of money because walking is free. Whereas the Peloton, she talked about it as this whole experience, not just a bike.
Well,
So
the other part is the therapy part, and I can ride with my friends. Whether she'll
yeah,
actually do it or not, I'm not sure. But the fact is other people are talking about it, and the notion of it being a form of therapy is. She kept going back to like, this isn't about necessarily just physical health. This is more about mental health than it is about
yeah,
physical health.
the me time. Like there's
Me
from a
time.
marketer's perspective, like there's other like we now know when you like one of the things that I love when you get here is like, okay, so what else are people trying to do
Right.
when they need more of that me time before they're actually searching for a Peloton bike? Where else are they and what else are they investing in and spending time on and trying to solve for that problem? And there's a lot of opportunity there in identifying those other methods that they're trying, but because you're going to have less competition to be able to kind of seed yourself as a solution at that stage, right? And identify who are the, you know, the wellness people, if they're trying meditation or if they're doing this, like who are those people, not just the fitness people, right?
Right. Well, and that's the thing is like, this is where I take a step back, and I'm not sure she's talking about fitness, you know, she's talking about mental wellness, and she's talking about me time, and she's talking about, you know, being able to spend it, like she's compensating for all the things that the pandemic has pulled away. But at the same time, moving to California or Southern California in the summers is like, even if I started walking now, I can't walk in the summer. It's just too hot.
Yeah.
And so part of this is like, I need a way in which to kind of look at this thing and say, like, I need to be able to carve, this is our life. You know, we've got this 12 to 14 hour day thing is not going away. And I need to be able to carve some time for myself. And I think she said, whether it was Amy or Grace who said, like, look, I can clip in and clip out in 20 minutes and still go between meetings and still have me time.
That clip in, clip out thing too, I think is really interesting too. Cause like I wonder how much of that is key to the ritual, because they use a lot of that in their marketing. You see the foot going and you see the clip in, like that is part of the ritual of becoming. One of the things she talked about, she's like, I want to become this healthier person. I want to be able to aspire and see myself as a cyclist and identify with that. And there's this author that writes about how to he calls it your alter ego. And like when you go into your alter ego, you need that first ritual, that behavior that you do. He puts on glasses and that puts him into his. But that clipping in, like now you're clipping into this other side of yourself that you're aspiring to be.
And again, I feel like I want to be careful about talking about kind of the healthy part of this. I think the more I heard about kind of the notion of the bike it was about belonging with everybody. Like I didn't go to the Soul Cycle because then I couldn't ride with my friends, right? And so it's not necessarily being a cyclist, it's about doing things with other people. So
Amanda,
belonging. That's what it felt like to me.
Are we on the right track? Like where?
Similar track. I mean, mostly yes, but I think that the thing with friends it's more of like, I really want that option available to me.
Yes.
If I'm going to pay for this bike. So it's sort of, I don't even know how much the Soul Cycle bike is, but one, I remember, I think their parent company donated a lot of money to the Trump campaign, and I was not into that. So I was like,
That's a good one.
And I was like, this is an easy thing to be like, I don't like Soul Cycle, but I assume it's probably in a similar price point as Peloton. So I kind of was like, well, if I'm going to choose a premium price, like exercise thing, why not choose the thing where my friends already are? And then if I want to ride with them, I can. And then if I don't, then I won't. So.
Right. Yeah.
This is a different point, but like one thing that she said that is like, you know, from a marketing perspective that stands out to me is this idea of it's too hot to walk in the summer. It's like, and so where are the other, when you think about markets that you want to target more aggressively with your marketing, like where are the other places where the climate affects their ability to just go outside and go for a run?
Well,
right?
too hot or too cold, right?
Exactly, right?
And so it's those people who basically are.
And at those peak times of year where it's too hot and too cold. So, you know, kind of from a marketing budget perspective and from a like geography perspective, where you might want to get, because like the influence part of her having friends that talked about this, her seeing them during their Instagram stories, like that's all was a huge part of what made Amanda feel so confident about this. So you want to be able to create those pockets in places, right? You don't want to spray and pray over the whole world. Like find the places where they already have those in like those challenges, those environmental challenges that stop them from just going outside.
Yep, I think that's all right. And like to me, some of the anxieties are, can I really do it? Can I actually get my time to, like, that's, I think all that pre-work she did prior to actually ordering it, it's still in her head. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, I've done this. I pushed this app. It was free enough. I think that I'm going to be able to do it. It was one of the other kind of dominoes that had to fall in order to kind of pay the money.
I love her price evaluation too, because she's almost talking me into it now, because like because you did the payment plan, you said it was, $70 each, and that includes your subscription and the payment. And the way that you're doing that mental math is really fascinating, because that $70 goes to $30 in what, 24 months? Like when the bike actually paid off. So then it's like way cheaper than the gym, right? So like as you're trying to justify this to yourself, it's like right now it's already cheaper than the gym. But then once the bike's paid off, it's much cheaper.
But
right?
here's the interesting thing. You have to realize, like, there was actually very little shopping for this thing.
Yeah, there
wasn't comparing other bikes. Wasn't like, oh, I was going to go look at gyms. It was like, so the relativity here is like, I'm comparing the pricing to a gym. I'm comparing the bike to basically a rowing machine. And then at the same time, there's this aspect of being able to spend time with my friend. Like it's just got so many different reference points in it that it's very hard to like do side-by-side comparison shopping for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and to address some of the related to this and to address some of the questions in the chat, I didn't even look at reviews.
Like, and I love that, because I think that like the friends of yours that compared this to therapy, like the idea that you were feeling such stress, like you were gravitating towards this solution. You didn't need to go out and look at a bunch of other ones. You're already probably feeling kind of stressed out. You didn't need to go on this huge shopping evaluation.
That's right. Well, and what I would say is the reviews are really from Amy and Grace. Like I've got reviews from people who are very close to me and they know it. And oh, by the way, Amy's telling me to buy it.
Yeah. I mean, there are more friends who just said how much they loved it. Like I had another close mom friend. She hadn't worked out in maybe 4 years and previously had considered herself an athlete and was very much an athlete. So she got one and she was super excited about it. Another friend who is more similar to me in terms of fitness profile, like we don't consider ourselves athletic. We don't really work out. She loves it. Her husband loves it. So it was just everyone saying like, this is the best.
So this is the interesting part, is like the fact that there are people like me who have learned to love it.
Yeah.
That I can do it too. Like there's this whole aspect of like, I know that I don't really like it and I can do a little of it, but if Amy can love it and Grace can love it, you know what, I can figure out how to love it too.
And from a marketing perspective, like all I'm thinking about are the 101 ways you can motivate that word of mouth in a positive way. There's so many opportunities to reward and celebrate your current buyers so that they can spread the gospel to their friends like Amanda. So like that becomes way more powerful than other channels that you can drop money in that might not be nearly as like influential.
Yeah,
totally. And like my friends all had their referral code, so I could get, I think $200 worth of accessories through their code. And then that wasn't even a selling point for me at that point. It was just like, oh, sweet, this is icing on the cake. And I also want to point out, I mean, how Peloton's, several years old at this point. I first heard about it while I was working at Fitbit. And because Peloton was such an early stage company, and like I think at the time there was no monthly payment plan. I think it was just $2,000 bike, take it or leave it. And my few coworkers at Fitbit who had a Peloton or were getting one, we worked at Fitbit. Like they were hardcore athletes. They were people they were marathoners. They were ultra marathoners. So people who do 52-mile runs, which is insane. But they were those people. So I was like, oh, I would never get this bike. Like never. Like I'm not like you. But once it was my friends who are more like me, who don't consider themselves athletes, who are new to working out, who are just kind of getting back into it, who I very much relate to more on a fitness level, then I was like, oh, so it's not for hardcore people. It's for people like me.
Oh, good from
So-
a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
Like I love when
No,
you
I
call
think that's
yourself
I think that's a
fascinating.
really important point. Is like it's like, you know, like if you look at Peloton's ads, they're all about people who look like they're workout fanatics, and it's like it's really for everybody else.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So one of the things I want to just pick up on as well is you almost always talk about like, well, the Aura ring we could get on the Friday, they had a deal, they really didn't have, like you talk a big game around deals, but you really didn't get any deals here.
Yeah, the only deal I got really was the accessories through my
Right.
friend's discount
So
code.
so this is where you have to be very careful in these kind of interviews where you can hear her constantly saying like, oh, we got some money off when we bought the Aura rig, and I was, maybe they'd have a sale after the first of the year. Like, as much as she wanted all that, that didn't necessarily cause her to say, I'm going to buy this thing.
Mhm.
So this is where you've got to be careful not to confuse kind of like the desire to get a deal with why they actually bought it.
And
Yeah.
like Amanda, would you say as a marketer, we're hearing about Black Friday, like, or like, so much, like it might have been like you had like a FOMO because there'd been so much attention to Black Friday that you didn't actually have, like, maybe more so than the average person who doesn't work in marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's also knowing a little bit about like stuff like Peloton. Like they don't do real discounts. Like Peloton's never gonna say like 50% off today. They're never gonna do that.
They shouldn't do that.
Yeah, right.
Because at some point they're
Totally.
lowering the value, and you actually are willing to pay for the value of what it is. And to be honest,
Yeah.
one of the reasons that it works is because when it's so expensive, the fact is you feel like I have to do something with it. I paid that much money for it.
Totally.
And
Exactly.
so part of this is like, if you start to get, you can go buy a bike at Costco and try to and use the app, but that's not the same thing.
Right. It's not.
Rish
Yeah.
asked a question about messaging, and Rish, like off the top of my head, I don't think I'd come up with something that would be my finished version. But he said, like, if you had to kind of come up with that one liner to attract a persona that Amanda represents, what might it be? Like, there's definitely to be something around therapy in there, like this idea that this is not about being skinny and looking good in a bathing suit.
No. This is, to be honest, when the stress is building and whiskey has become my retreat, right, my me time, help me find a new place where I can actually feel better, do better, and be with my friends.
Yeah.
Something along that line of like there has to be some element of there's a I think mental health or a all around health aspect as opposed to just physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think with like, more and more I realize like when I say mental health, it is mental health, but you can't be mentally healthy if you're not physically healthy. I mean, that's at least what I very strongly believe. Like one starting point to better mental health is your physical health.
Yep.
You are so
one thing I'll share with those that are still with us is that Amanda knew Bob and I were going to interview her about this, and Amanda's also an incredible marketer herself. And so she probably couldn't help but think a bit deeply about her buying journey leading up to this conversation. Whereas typically when you're talking to somebody, they probably have not given very much forethought to it. And they're kind of, they're learning alongside you about how
because they even can, most people don't connect the dots of why they bought, a new iPhone, or like at some point they just know they bought it. And it's like, when you start to actually see the patterns, it's like most people buy a new iPhone or a new phone, to be honest, when they actually either have a long weekend or are going on vacation so they can figure it out. Mm-hmm. Like nobody puts that together unless you hear a bunch of these interviews.
Mm-hmm. And I think about when I bought my iPhone, because I did a breakdown of it years ago for a Jobs We Don't Sell interview, and somebody interviewed me about it. And it had been like, when I was comparing it to was not another phone, I was comparing it to hiring a photographer to do headshots of me, because this phone had like the ability to do like the portrait mode and my phone didn't. And I was like, well, I could spend $400 on this, or I could spend $800 on this, and I'll be able to have the phone after the fact. So like you learn so much, but I didn't know that until the person interviewed me. I'd never connected that was what was happening.
Right. And so we what I would say is, as consumers, we just go through life reacting to the moment. we actually don't ever build the timeline unless somebody pulls it out of us. And then we don't understand what I call the domino effect. A domino half the size can actually tip over a domino twice its size. And so what happens is you start to realize there's these little things that happen, and they're the seeds that actually make it all happen. And we usually don't see those because they're so small, but the reality is they all build on each other.
Yeah. And Bob, to your point too, like, and Amanda, to your point, like, everything I've seen about the Peloton and the people that I've seen talking about how much they love their Peloton, they are people who I would think of as very fit people. And that excluded me from considering that purchase. I was like, I'm not a very fit person. And yet here you have all of these people that are re-entering the world of fitness, and that were never fit before, that have found a way to work this into their life and are getting better from it. And Peloton isn't telling their stories. And they should be. It's a missed opportunity because they're relying on friends like Amanda's to tell those stories when they could they could probably do a much better job of telling them themselves.
So this is what I call non-consumption. How many people actually want one but don't even know they should have one?
Mm-hmm.
How many people don't even realize like this is actually more, in some cases, it can help you as much in mental health as it can help you in physical health, right? And so this whole aspect of where therapy's not working for people, it's like, well, this can be your alternative until you can go back to therapy. And to be honest, from that perspective, it's literally less than 20 visits, if not 10 visits to a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I was doing that mental math too. It's like, if you compare it to a therapist, it's just damn cheap.
Right. That's right.
Funny.
Well, I am just like, this has been so great. Bob, thank you. It's been phenomenal to see the master at work. Amanda, thank you for
Thank you, Amanda. This
sharing
is
so openly with us.
I want a picture of you on the Peloton. And then to be honest, I actually want to do a follow-up interview after you've done it to see because I think we know your expectations for it. To be honest, you don't have much expectations besides being able to carve some time out to use it. But I actually want to know the transformation that you make by using it.
Yeah, I'd love to.
That's so amazing.
That's great. So thank you very much. Do we want to answer any questions from the chat, or is there anything up there that's worthwhile? I can't, I'm dyslexic, so I can't read.
No, lots of folks are still on. Lots of great commentary. Rich said that he was so glad that he joined and that he took his own notes. Everyone, if you have a few questions, I'm happy to stay on a little bit longer. Could you screenshot your notes? Oh, I'd love to see that too, Bob. Would you be able to take a screenshot of your notes and build a copy of that available?
Let's do this. Hold on. We're going to go here. Hold on. I'll do that right now. And then I'll go.
I think one of the things when Bob was explaining to me how he came up with the idea of the timeline and the journey, and I think one of the things that we're also grateful for is that Bob is dyslexic, because he found a way of being able to gather all of this information and express it in this visual way that it makes it so much more. I don't know. I find myself to be visual too. I just find it so much more accessible than what you typically see in terms of what a persona might look like, right? Where it's just a bunch of different attributes of a person or their use cases or pain points. The actual journey itself is such a novel approach to understanding a buyer. And Bob, I'm sorry, but I'm so grateful you're dyslexic.
Yeah, no, the way I see it, I think it's the greatest gift I ever got that I would never wish upon my children. Right? It's the notion of having to, all the wrestling and struggling I have to do is I don't want my children to have to go through it, but it's, I just remember going to the neurologist and basically them looking at me going at some point in time, I've had 3 close-head brain injuries. It's the guy, he's looking at my chart and he's going who's the 65-year-old with the massive stroke? And he's like, this can't be your file. And eventually they come back and they go I have no idea how you're doing what you're doing. And it's for me, that was the sign that was okay, I've been able to that's why my name of my company is Rewired Group, is because I've been able to rewire my brain to see things in different ways.
Wow, that's fascinating. We should do a separate session on just your note taking.
I'm
Truly
not sure.
fascinating.
It's more like a treasure map than it is anything else.